Yeah. All right. So next up is lore and Chad. As I try to get this fixed, um, I think we're going doing something new that's going to take us down a road that's really going to be big for Witch Queen, right?
We're going to be going in, like I said last week, with the villain, who she is next season, and what's going on right now. Um, Savathun is the major player. She is the number one person. This entire year, we literally have her trapped in a crystal right now. And so we are trying to figure out how to exercise her worm. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And I want to talk about, while she's trapped in that crystal, her past. The only thing that we have from the past, and like I said last week, we're going to be going through the Books of Sorrow, which is kind of a diary of sorts of Oryx's, and Oryx being the Taken King, the one of the three major hive gods, that we took out in D1. So we got this book when the Taken King came out, and it came about in a bunch of fragments that we found in order to make a weapon. And of course, I'll talk about that at the end. But this is going to be a probably 4 to 5 week just reading of what's going on, because it's a lot to get through, but it is the past of basically the entire hive as we know them. There's three major tribes, just to get into the really basics here for the people that didn't play D1. There are the followers of Zivu Arath, the Hive God of War. There are the followers of Oryx, the Taken King, and then the followers of Savathun, the Witch Queen. Now all three of them are siblings. They all went through this, and I'm going to get through it in here, but they all are the beginnings of the hive as we know them. The strength that they have, the hierarchy that they have, the entire system that they have, and everything is fleshed out in one book. So that we can get their entire histories and the reasonings for why they are what they are. So the first book is basically an intro, and it says, "Dearest sisters, it's taken me 2 years, a quarter of our lives, but I've found proof. We aren't native to the fundament. Our ancient ancestors came here to hide. The plate of stone we live on, our osmium court, is one fragment of a rocky planet that crashed into the fundament and broke apart. All the nearby continents, the helium drinkers, the bone plaza, the star cutters, came from the same world. Perhaps the other races of the fundament are migrants too. We live on the shrapnel of our home world, floating in an ocean deep inside a gas giant. That's what fundament must be, a titanic gas planet. The endless storm above us must be one layer of the atmosphere, and the sea we float on. That's more down beneath it. So much more. You understand what that means, Sathona. The timid truth is a lie. We aren't meant to be the world's prey. We aren't born to live and die in the dark. We have a better destiny. Tell our father, Sister Sathona, this is the proof of his life's work. With love for your second birthday, your first surviving sister, Arash." Next book goes, "Predators and Menaces, carved to endure by Z Ro, third surviving sister of the Osmium King's last brood." So we now have all the names of the sisters: Zero, Sathona, and Aurash. Now, like I said, this is kind of a diary, and every once in a while it'll say carved and by the author of that verse. So that'll help you kind of separate out what's what. So Zero is obviously the warrior, and she goes on to catalog some of her findings. And she says, "A stormjoy is a living cloud. When it passes over our continent, it lowers its feeding tentacles. On each tentacle are the bait stars. While the light makes you happy, You must avoid it. You will be eaten. A stormjoy is a good way for an old person to choose death. Also, a daring knight can cut the bait stars from its tentacles. I have 6. Falling. If you fall off the edge of the continent, you will die in the ocean. This is a special hazard when our father, the Osmium King, uses the engines. The helium drinkers, the currents of the fundament ocean, bring us near other continents. The helium court is near us now. They are of our species, but they are our enemies. Their knights raid us every day. Helium drinkers have 2 legs, 2 arms, and 3 eyes, just like us. But they are bright and evil. I want to be a knight and fight them. The helium drinker ambassador ate 10 of my sisters as tribute. This is normal, however, I resent it. Mothers. Mothers can fly. They live much longer than 10 years. Mothers are extremely smart and they guard their spawn. If you try to tamper with the eggs, they will eat you. Sathona wants to eat the jelly and become a mother when she turns 4. Storms. The rain is often poisonous, sometimes it dissolves flesh. When lightning misses the lightning farm, it can vaporize a person. The entire world is deadly to us. Mysteries. The fundament is very large. We are the smallest things in it. If you don't understand something, it will probably kill you. My teacher Taux says this is why we have such short lives, so we can breed and adapt quickly. Moon waves. My sister Arash is afraid of moon waves. When she gets back from her expedition to the tungsten monoliths, I will ask her why. Chapter 1, verse 2, the hateful verse. For the consideration of the helium court, written in desperation, this sealed secret. I am Taux, sterile mother teacher to the children of the osmium throne. As a mother, I live long. As a neuter, I can rise above the small battles of court politics. I alone see the patterns of survival. Alone, I design the great engines that move the osmium court. Now, alone, I must act to save my kingdom. Snellity has claimed my lord the Osmium King. He is 10 and mad. The study of ancient texts consumes him. Today he raves about moons above the storm. Tomorrow he will wander the halls speaking to his familiar, a dead white worm from the deep sea. He keeps it in glass, and he tends to it, and he neglects the duties of a king. The Osmium King has 3 surviving heirs, each 2 years old. Zero, the youngest and bravest, who wants to be a knight. Sathona, most clever, who wants to be a mother. Arash, navigator child who dreams of the infinite ocean. Tomorrow she will return from the tungsten monolith. None of these are suitable heirs. None of them will protect the osmium court from the howling fundament. Zero can fight, but not lead. Sathona can think, but not fight. And Arash's curiosity will draw her away from duty. I fear for all future children. Soon the Osmium King will lock himself into the royal orrery to study the moons. Gather your knights, O helium drinkers, and invade our continent. Kill the 3 heirs, and I will rule the Osmium Court as your regent, and build engines for you. And if I fail, let Leviathan in the deep eat me. Written in grief, this hateful request. Taux, Osmium Mother, neutered to watch. Chapter 1, verse 3, the Oath. Sisters, this is how an oath is done. Put your left hands on the mast, close to mine. Take the knife in your right hand, push it through your left hand, straight between the bones. Now carve a bloodline down the mast and speak your oath. I am Zero, youngest daughter of the dead king. I will take back my osmium court and kill the traitor Taux. On my left eye I swear vengeance. In the blood the oath is made. I am Sathona, middle daughter of the dead king. I will take back my home and eat the mother jelly. I will raise my spawn on the corpse of the helium king. On my right eye, I promise this. I am Aurash, first daughter of the dead king. I will chase my father's last screaming warning. I will know what changed the motion of our moons. If the end of the world is coming, I will understand why. On my center eye, I swear it, I will understand. In blood, this oath is made. Now next is the syzygy, carved to endure by Alrosh. Only Zero's bait stars let us escape. Only Sathona's tricks let us reach the coast. For now, that we have my ship. I must lead the way. I am the navigator. We may never see our homes again. Zero seethes with hate and fury for Taux. But this is my deepest fear. Our civilizations drift on the fundament at the tungsten monoliths. I learned that thousands of other species drift with us, coexisting on a vast world sea, and the tides of the fundament move us all. The timid truth says that we are the smallest, most fragile things alive, the natural prey of the universe. Taux would have us believe that our ancestors came to the fundament to hide from the hungry void. My father died afraid, not of vile Taux or the helium drinkers, but of his Ori. He screamed to me, Arash, my first daughter, the moons are different, the laws are bent. And he made the sign of a syzygy. Imagine the 52 moons of Fundament lining up in the sky. It would take all 52, of course, just a few massive moons, but this is my deepest fear. Imagine their gravity pulling on the Fundament sea, lifting it into a swollen bulge. And then imagine that bulge collapsing as the syzygy passed, a wave big enough to swallow civilizations, a god wave. I have to find a way to stop it before the god wave annihilates my species. If I could only get back into my father's Ori, I could learn exactly when. Next, chapter 1, verse 5. Needle and Worm. My secrets carved in my code by Sathona. 1. This year is wild voyaging, these lightning nights and golden days, these forays into ancient wrecks and wind-blown flights from monsters. These are the happiest times of my life. 2. I want to be a mother, not because I want to spawn, but because I want a long life, long enough to make a difference. We have been at sea for a year, and I'm afraid we will die out here. 3. I know where to find secrets. I know where vast, slow things with long memories live. 4. The Needle Ship. The Needle Ship, carved in my code by Sathona. A liar. 1. We salvaged the needle from the Shiyubi Maelstrom. I knew it would be there. The needle is a gray ship, as long and slender as hope, as unbreakable as time, and old. Older than death. It tumbled through the maelstrom before our ancestors crashed into the fundament. This is not a sea ship like Arash's. It is an artifact of high technology. I know its purpose. I know what happened to the crew. Zero wants to sell the ship, but I told her it was worthless. Arash wants to open the ship and see if we can take command of it. I know this is the right thing to do. I know because I asked the worm. The worm, carved into my code by Sathona, who should be afraid. It was my father's familiar. I ripped it from him as we fled. It is a dead white thing, segmented, washed up from the deep sea. It is dead, but it still speaks to me. It says, Listen closely, O vengeance mine. Chapter 1, verse 6, Sisters. This is the girls talking to each other. Zero, my brave sister, you have worked too hard to move the carcasses out of the birthing room. Come, steer the ship for a while. Take joy in what our needle can do. She flies the ship around in cutting circles down beneath the sea, and their wake rises up to the surface like a trader's dying breath. Arash, lonely navigator, we have traveled so long with only each other. I know you love to hear and speak new tongues. Come, sit in the flesh garden room. I will read you these stories I brought at Kahar. Arash sits there amongst the flesh fans, two eyes closed, listening in silence to Sathona's stories. Later, Zero comes in and says, Sathona, cutting mind of ours, you grow lonely in your thought. Play swords and lanterns with me. But Sathona was heavy with sorrow, and couldn't pretend any joy as she chased Zero through the needle's glistening halls. Sathona, pensive one, what is it? What troubles you? Her sisters listen as she says, Oath-bearing siblings, we are 5 years old. For 2 years we've worked to repair this ancient ship and understand its systems. I am almost too old for the Mother Jelly, and the knights who killed our father are surely dying of age. We 3 will die here, in exile. Taux will outlive us, and Arash, brilliant-eyed Arash, you will die of old age long before you have proof of your godwave, or any way to stop it. Arash and Zero looked at each other. I wish you weren't so honest, Zero said, and Arash thought that Sathona had never been wrong. In her soul, Arash knew that the only way to keep their oath was to find a great, powerful secret. A secret that could change everything. This was Arash's soul, her fire, and her shadow. her desire to cut through the flank of the world and find its beating heart. We have to dive, Arash says. That's what this ship is built to do, dive into the fundament and the world below us towards the core. That's where the ancient crew died so obscenely, Zero protested. That's where the atrocity in the birthing room was born. We have to dive, Sathona said, following the whispers of her familiar. In the world beneath us, in the metallic depths, I hope we may find what we need most. More time, more life. Chapter 1, verse 7. The dive. For life, Sathona dove. For vengeance, Zero dove. And Aurash dove to understand. Now the ship draws deeper and deeper through the layers of foam and metal, cold element slush. Arash devours the ship's maps of fundament from the high angelic cloud decks, down and down through the storms and oceans and plates of floating world, into the core. They emit monsters of continental scope, vast anemones that raised glowing tentacles to bait them in. Zero flew the needle ship through them and bled black carbon jelly and frost. Then they came to a place beneath the metal. I'll use the sensors, whispered Arash. Listen. In the wet gold dark of the helm, they listened to the ship, and the ship listened to the crushing motions of fundament. They heard the collision of continents, they heard the patter and crush of helium neon rain. They struggled the struggles of monsters, and they heard the distant groan of the ocean rising, tugged by distant moons. The syzygy is real, Sathona hissed. It's already begun. Behind them, Zero thought of the birthing room, where ancient explorers had labored over surgeries and administrations, peeling back the chrysalis and the call of that which they had made from the deep, whose birth none of them would survive. There's something down here, she whispered, something secret. And the Leviathan loomed over them, its brow as huge as all the continents of their childhood, its great array fins crackling with the lightning of its life, booming into the hull of the needle ship in a microwave voice. You must turn back. Save yourselves from the deep. Save the world from yourselves. You must turn back. That's where we're going to have to leave it for now. We're going to get back into it. Like I said, it's going to be about 5 weeks, but there's a lot here. There's a lot to talk about. It's very interesting to hear what the sisters are going through, and that they aren't native to the planet that they grew up on. They are migrants of a world that crashed into it. So probably another moon that fell and crashed into it. But it's also funny that the helium drinkers are they call them bright. So already they are painting the light as an enemy, painting brightness as an enemy, and going deeper and deeper into the darkness already in order to save themselves. Now they use cutting plenty of times as an analogy to the darkness, the sword logic as we know it now. But it'll flesh itself out in time, and we'll be able to break things down a little bit more down the line. I think we got a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely looking forward to that. I think this backstory of what who we know now of Sabathun and Oryx and Zephyrath, what their names are now. Spoiler alert. Is a great story, and I love it. Looking forward to hearing more about that. All right, so it's time for the mailbag, and first up, Chad, this question's for you, and that is where are all the awoken dudes?
Yeah, that was a fun one submitted by one of the guys I ran through the GM this week. Um, I told him a little bit, but in the making of the Awoken with the colony ship that they had, the one that got pulled into the wormhole there, um, they had, I believe it was 40,900 passengers, and in those 40,000 passengers, I believe about 70%, I'd have to look up the exact numbers, but I think about 70% of them were female. One of their tenets, I think the fifth tenet, was that men are to be cared for and protected. They are basically a protected species for them because they are the only ones left. And being that there were so little of them, they had to make sure that while they were there, they had eternal life. So over time, the percentages would probably even out. But in the beginning, basically nobody could do any harm to the men because there was so small amount of them on the ship in the first place. Now why the percentages were like that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why. I feel like a 50-50 would have been fine, but that for this particular ship, the way Bungie made it, it was very, very, very heavily female. And I think the females were the ones that were mostly doing most of the work. I can't remember the exact ratio for the actual 900 workers on the ship. Um, I feel like that one was also like a 70-30 split. Was female were the employees and 30. I'd have to look into that a little bit more, but I remember it being simply because that's the ratio that was on the ship, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many men stayed in the world that they came from, because remember, only a portion of the Awoken came back to our reality. So some of them stayed behind. They didn't give us a ratio of how many came over. Like if 10,000 of them came through, was it still a 70-30 split, or was it a 50-50, or was it a 90-10 split? Like, I don't know that one. All I
Yeah.
know is the initial number.
Well, to be the helmet stays on, so there's no way to know if somebody's awoken exo or human. So if I'm in a tower, I got a helmet on, so there's no way to know. But my warlock is awoken, so um, that's my answer. All right, number two. How would you bring back Icebreaker? Um, to me, with the name Icebreaker, it's going to be stasis. Um, maybe that it adds stacks of slow on hits to where it freezes in an enemy, and then whenever you shoot it to kill it, it makes like a huge stasis break, almost like what Cloud Strike does, but instead it does that for stasis. You can't have it regen ammo again. That won't ever. I can't come back to Destiny, so it'd have to be something totally different.
Yeah, I mean, look what they did with Whisper. They had it initial Black Hammer levels, and then they're like, no, yeah, we can't do this, and then they killed it again, like they did in D1, which I mean was a test, and it showed up that it was just as powerful now as it was then, and it's just not good. Um, but yeah, seeing it as a stasis would be dope. It would be something like the Fallen remade, or like the Awoken give us, because they
Yeah.
they are the ones that made like Augur Scepter was stasis.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be cool to see. Um, but yeah, the regen ammo would have to be either completely reduced, or it would just have to have ammo. But the problem is the whole exoticness of it was that it regen ammo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't know how you would do that.
I don't know either. Um, yeah, I think you just have to tie it in the stasis though at this point. All
Mm.
right, question 3. Pick a Destiny campaign to be made into a series. This would serve as a way to get others into the game as well as entertainment.
Mm. Okay, so we're talking like a seasonal content
Well,
to make into, or
like
like
there's Forsaken, there's Shadowkeep, there's the Dark Before, there's like
okay,
OG
so you're
Destiny.
talking the major stuff. Gotcha.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Taken King has the most villainy villain in it,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because I think it's the only one where the villain is the villain in a story and the raid. So you'd be able to have a series with the storyline of the Taken King and then the raid
Yeah.
as like the final like climax episodes of the series, of the like the season. So I think that for me would be the one that I would pick, because just simply because of that.
I think I would pick Forsaken, and like I would like expand out the prologue a little bit to get people to like really fall in love with Cade, because like usually you already had the backstory of Cade going into Forsaken. So like I would start out the series of like the first 3 or 4 episodes is nothing but like stuff with Cade, his interaction with Zavala, and everybody else in the tower. The love for the chicken, and then whenever he gets killed, like the oh my gosh moment, that like you just pull people in then and like, well, what are they gonna do now? As like you really kill off the like my favorite character like 4 episodes into like a 10 episode season. I think that would be really cool.
I was gonna say you're gonna murder him episode 4, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Question number 4. What are you most excited for the 30th anniversary pack?
Hmm. I think for me, mainly because I'm cool with surprise when Bungie brings surprises about. We know this based off of my reaction to there being literally no drops for what this current season was going to be like until the day it happened. I like when Bungie does that. Um, and so all the weapons that they're adding in, because they're giving us Yallarhorn, but they're also giving us, I think it was 6 or 7 guns that we just don't know what they are. So I want to, I don't want to know. I want that to be a surprise,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited about that. As soon as they release it, then it'll be completely even again. But for right now, those random guns, I want to know. I'm so excited about that. Like I want to be surprised, and I want at least one of them to be really good. But that's what I'm most excited about is the guns we don't know about yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, guns are always a point that everybody's super excited for. To me, I'm excited to learn if there's going to be difficulty options for the dungeon. I'm really
Ooh.
if they give us a master version of a dungeon, I'm going to be like very ecstatic for that to grind that out. And then usually like they have a solo flawless, they're like emblem and all that stuff, right? So then are they gonna have like 2 separate ones? So they like have one that's like pretty core for doing it the regular,
Don't
and
do
then
that to me,
like
man, because I'm gonna have to do it.
yeah, I mean that'd be fun, man. Like just doing it together,
Yeah, I
being
know.
yeah, yeah. I uh
Ah,
I just I did that Prestige Master with Cody this week, and I didn't do it flawless on my hunter yet, so I got the emblem again. So suck it, Fox. I know you haven't got that emblem yet. Um, and then Smash had a quick question.
ah.
Is that will we ever be going into the lore about any of the raids? And I think we'll probably have some time to do that before Witch Queen. So unless the 30th anniversary gives us like books and books of lore, I would imagine that you probably have some time to go into that.
So far, we know that Zur is going to be the main like vendor for it, based off of just what they've given us. We know that the nine is going to be the. I believe the nine is involved with the 6-man activity. So I don't think there's going to be much lore on that end because mainly because it's like a surprise thing. I think it's mostly about just the content itself. But it's definitely something I do want to dig into as well because like he also says further on that most of them don't have like speech or dialogue that happens throughout the raid. You're just playing it for the gameplay. Like there's sometimes some stuff that goes on, but um I think Deepstone Crypt is the one with the most audio.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're talking to Clovis and he's talking to you through the comms. So you're hearing what's going on, you're talking, you're seeing an exo be made, and like when you go into the room you watch an exo be made out of Taniks, you're seeing all these things. And I think the lore on that is the most interesting to me personally because of what we know. We run past that statue, which is in a bunch of the lore of based off of Europa, so there's a lot to dig into there. um Now the rest of the raids, Wrath of the Machine is very linear in what it is talking about. Taken King is very linear in what it's talking about. The only thing that's of much importance there is like the daughters and the tome in the ogre room, the like the but yeah, like he said, there's no dialogue. Like Vaults of Glass, there's no dialogue. You're just going in there and killing Vex, but it's very important. I think I did talk about Vaults of Glass initially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I'd like to dig into Deepstone. Easy.
Yeah.
Deepstone's so interesting. All the exo origins and everything is super cool, man. Yeah, I definitely want to dig into that.
All
Maybe
right.
January. We'll have to see.
Yeah. 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 Something like that. We'll have to see what the
Yeah.
after Sorrows, which should lead us into the The 30th. All right. Last question here. Pancakes or waffles? To me, this is an easy answer. It's waffles all the way.
Oh man, I hate to do this, Jared. Mainly because Ryan isn't here, but waffles.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Waffles, 100%. I want to be unhealthy. I want little cups of butter with
Hmm.
syrup in it, just glistening on top of the butter. Oh,
Yep. I like a good Belgian
yeah.
waffle where they have like usually like they put sugar cubes into the batter, so then it's like when you
Hmm.
make it, it's like a chunk of
Yeah,
crystallized
yeah, yeah.
sugar in there.
That's
Oh,
good. It's got the sugar in it. There's also like right now and if whenever you come visit, I'll have to get it for you. But the mochi waffles, where they're made out of the mochi batter. Ooh, ooh, man,
I don't
it's
know.
got a different texture,
Don't know what that
but
is. I
it's
have to
it's
look it up.
made out of rice flour, and it's
Okay.
just more glutinous, so it's
Yeah.
more starchy, so it's more
Hmm.
chewy bread.
Okay.
But it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Waffles, 100%.
All right. That does it for the mailbag, Chad. Anything else you want to plug? Get in there. What's going on this week?
I think it's definitely gonna be fun. We're definitely going to go live for the GM run whenever Ryan gets back. I think Sunday is what he said. Sunday he gets back
Sunday or
Saturday, so
Monday.
we'll give him a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we'll do that. Um, Hopefully we can make sure our audio is all 100% beforehand. Since there'll be three of us, it'll be a little
Yeah.
bit easier.
It's crazy. It started out
um,
like everybody could hear you, like other people in chat. Like whenever it started out,
yeah, I
they could
think
hear
when I
you.
switched it to the Yeti, it did some stuff, but
Oh.
that's
Okay.
that's for after. Anyway, um, other than that, I mean, keep on coming up, coming with the lore questions. It'll let me write out some things that I want to do. It'll give me more of what people want to hear about, which is always important. You know, you want to talk about what's important at the time, and lore's tough because it's there's so much of it. So I want you want to talk about what's currently going on, but the books of sorrow are from so far in the past, but it's like current at the same time. So right now it's very important. But if you got any questions, or if you got any things that you're like, hey, I noticed this, definitely hit me up with those. I love seeing it.
Yeah. Not much report from New World this week. Just kept grinding now. Some power here and there. Not much. It's a dead game now, so who cares? Um, you know. Last thing here is thanks for listening. Thanks for putting up with our sound issues. I think I had to click something to accept some random Windows frame or something, and then Chad's audio is back in there. That it just goes swipe out of nowhere. I don't understand. Um, but as we go to end this, go Cats, beat Tennessee, beat those Dukies. Love you guys.